This is an actual documentary about my uncle, Mayor Isaiah Hurwitz, a World War II hero, awarded the Purple Heart, Oak Leaf Cluster, and Air Medals posthumously. He is the younger son of my grandfather, Dr. Leon Hurwitz, brother of my father, Saul Leon Hurwitz, and my middle name is in memory of my Uncle Mayor, Louise Myra Hurwitz. Joseph, I want to thank you very much for coming here today.
Hartelijk dank dat je naar hier komt.
And you've made my trip very happy.
Jij hebt mij extra gelukkig gemaakt door naar hier te komen.
Your experience must have been very hard for you when you were young.
Wat jij meegemaakt hebt met het gebeurde zal waarschijnlijk heel hard aangekomen zijn.
Geweldig. Geweldig.
Ja,
Dat is iets dat ik nooit vergeet.
it's something that I will never forget. Hoe reageerde jij erop toen het gebeurde?
I would like for you to try to explain to me
Probeer uit te leggen
every little thing you remember
elk detail dat je u herinnert,
about your experience
uw ervaring.
to the Mayor Luke.
Leg het uit aan de burgemeester, de omstandigheden, het weer, de dag, het uur, wat word jij om te doen?
Oké.
Ja, begin maar te vertellen, ik zal vertalen.
Wij werkten hier op de schermwerkerij.
I was working here in the area on the shipyard.
En het was alarm.
There was an alarm.
En we waren zo bang dat we gingen lopen zo ver mogelijk van de werf.
And we were so scared that we went running as far away as we could from the shipyard.
Omdat wij ook al hoorden zeggen dat de scheepswerf een van de doelwitten zou kunnen zijn van de bombardement.
Because we had been told that the shipyard could be one of the targets.
How far did you run from the shipyard?
Hoe ver zijn jij weggelopen van de...
Tussen de 2 en de 3 kilometer. Zo bang was ik.
He ran 2 kilometers from the shipyard, so scared he was.
From what? Did you run out of Temse?
Liep jij weg buiten Temse of bleef je in Temse? Ja, waarschijnlijk was dat geen 2 kilometer.
Het was nog verder.
Ja, It was away from the shipyard, but he stayed within Temse.
Okay.
Ik had liever wel mooi, dat kunnen begrijpen. Hoor.
Ja, en
dan
waar
duur-
zijn dan gestopt?
duur-
Waar zijn er gestopt?
Als we in de velden,
Yes.
en er graag gesprongen daar.
He ran into the fields and jumped into a ditch. So it was away from the shipyard, but it was on the margin of the shipyard. The shipyard was very vast.
Maar je moet begrijpen, voor ons was dat iets dat we nog nooit niet meegemaakt hadden.
You must
Zie je,
understand, it was something that we had never experienced before.
Ja, van zo bang worden wij.
We were scared to death,
En zelfs in paniek.
even in panic.
Ja, want je ziet die promoties vliegers altijd maar. En dat geluid van die vliegers.
You saw the aeroplanes,
En
you
daar
heard
die-
the sound.
Die informatie achter de ander, die voorbij vliegt, die begrijpt het.
And we were afraid because of the information we had got before that the shipyard could be a target.
Were the German people surrounding the area on foot as well as in the air?
Zaten de Duitsers zowel op de grond als in de lucht?
We hebben geen Duitsers in de grond, op de grond.
We have not seen any Germans on the ground, only in the air.
Okay.
Alleen in de Messerschmitt de jager heb ik gezien, die vliegen die brandigen. En er sprongen 4 of 5 mensen uit.
I saw the plane. It was hit by the Germans, and I saw several men jumping out of the aeroplane. Nou, wat herinnert jij u van de eerste die er uitsprong? Wat heb je precies gezien? Ook op het moment dat hij beschoten is. Dus when Mayor Hurwitz, he was the first who jumped out of the plane. What did you see?
Er sprongen een paar mensen uit, zo gezegd.
Some men jumped out of the plane.
En dan worden er momenten sprongen er weer anderen uit.
And
Want
after
ze sprongen op verschillende hoogtes.
After a
Ze vlogen niet
certain
op
time,
dezelfde hoogte.
some other men jumped out. They jumped out on different levels, on different heights.
En er was hier, dat ik me goed herinner, zo gezegd,
One I remember very well.
die was niet nog dicht bij, misschien maar nog 100 meter van de grond.
He was landing. He was 100 meters from the ground,
Daar werd hij nog beschoten door de jager.
and he was shot, and they kept on shooting.
Ja. En de jager kwam 2, 3 keer terug.
En
Met
dat-
de schiet, allemaal schieten.
And
En
that
dat was per ons, op den duur dachten wij ook, dat we kosten getroffen worden van die kogels ook.
and the Germans kept coming back and kept shooting. So we thought that we could be hit too. So dus ze schoten terwijl hij aan het landen was. So they hit him and kept shooting while he was going down.
Ze schoten eerst ze schoten op al die mensen die...
They shot at everyone.
In parachuten, hè.
In
Op
the
allemaal, hè.
the
En
parachutes.
En dat was, zo gezegd, schoten, dat worden honderden schoten, hè.
hundreds of shots.
Allemaal van mijn mitrailleur, zo gezegd, hè. Onophoudelijk worden. Want ik dacht, en mijn motor ook, dat die mensen geen schijn van kans hadden voor te overleven.
Yes, it was hard because we realized that the people hanging on the parachutes hadn't got a single chance to survive. They could not defend themselves in any way. Rokten elderda.
Ah ja, dat is zeker dat.
It was very hard experiencing that.
Dat is een gevoel dat je moet een keer, dat je nog nooit meegemaakt hebt.
It's a feeling you can only feel once in your life because it is so
Dat
very
vreselijk
hard.
gevoel,
Terrible.
Ja, ja want die dag hebben we niets meer kunnen doen. Hè.
That day, the work has been stopped in the shipyard and we have not worked anymore.
Maar weten we dat mij meest op zo gezegd
You
was?
know what struck me most?
Dat die mensen geen schijn van kans hadden.
That those people had not got one single chance to
Die
survive.
jongen gelijk als een pop in die valscherm.
They hung like a doll and they could not do anything.
Did you see my uncle fall?
Hebt jij haar oom tot op de grond zien vallen of was
Nee,
dat
dat heb ik
niet
niet
mogelijk?
gezien.
No. You were too far away.
Okay.
Maar ik wist niet wie daar in was. Hè. Er worden er 4 of 5 zo gezegd. Hè.
for many years, the names of those who died here were unknown.
I know.
It was only until Laurent Sageman made the examination that we made a plaque with the names on it. So in the beginning there was only a general plaque without names.
Right, right.
So they did not know any names.
My uncle dropped over the river in Weert.
Ja, mijn
En
oom,
dat is overgevallen.
die liggen in Weert, is nog altijd de kruis.
Ah, wel, ja, hoor.
Daar stegen de narren. En er stond nog altijd de kruis.
Ah.
Je kunt dat zien, jij als man
Naar
die
daar
film.
gingen ze ook.
Ja.
De dreven echt naar
Ja.
door. De dreven echt naar door.
Dus
Maar,
je moet er eens gewoon kijken. Want
Ik geloof dat ik volgens mij gedacht toen was ik rageur.
je dat juist zegt
Ja,
gisteren.
ja,
Hè?
ja. Ik durf zeggen dat ik misschien van die, want ik heb dat toen eens gelezen ook, hè, dat er in het erover sprak. Ik zeg tegen mijn vrouw, ik zeg, daar ben ik bij geweest. Er lag misschien 200 meter van. 200 of 300 meter.
We hebben die mannen nog uitgenodigd in Temst.
Ja.
He even remembers who was with him when he ran away.
My uncle?
No, when he ran away
Yeah,
from the shipyard,
Yes.
the man who was with him,
yes.
he even remembers his name. So a fellow worker here in the shipyard.
I see. Is he still alive, the
Nee,
fellow?
de andere is overleden. Roger de Wilder is
Ja,
dood,
ja,
die is
ja.
verongelukt. Hè?
Die is verongelukt.
He died in accident.
Die is op het tragische wijze verongelukt. Die was een trappen, die had een huisgebouw in Tilburg.
He had built a house in Tielrode.
En die kwam van het verdiep af. Hè. En die bleef met zijn sloep, maar zo als je van die sloep,
En die viel beneden de trap.
ja, die bleef
He,
open.
he fell down the stairs and he died.
Oh. You'll read in the book when my uncle, Mayor Hurwitz, dropped to the ground.
Je zult in het boek lezen dat wanneer mijn oom op de grond viel,
A little boy named Bernard ran up to him
een kleine jongen Bernard liep naar hem
and took water that
Nou,
was
water.
there
Ja.
and tried to keep him alive
ja, en deed water aan zijn gezicht om hem wat bij te brengen.
and looked at him and said,
En keek naar hem en
"You
zei,
are the most handsome man I have ever seen."
jij bent de schoonste man die ik ooit gezien heb, stond in het boek. Hè.
Ja.
My uncle was very tall,
Mijn oom was heel groot,
very handsome man,
heel schone man.
and he had a beautiful voice,
Hij had een prachtige stem, bariton.
and he sang for all of his troops,
En
his troop,
hij zong vaak voor de Amerikaanse troepen om ze te vermaken.
entertain. And he was 25,
Hij was 25 op het ogenblik dat hij overleed.
yeah. Did you see when they took his body and threw it in the truck?
Hebt jij zelf gezien dat ze hem op de vrachtwagen leidden? Dat heb jij waarschijnlijk niet gezien, want jij stond op de vrachtwagen. Nee.
Yeah, they took the bodies in the truck into Antwerp,
Ze zien hem in de vrachtwagen en ze vervoerden hem naar Antwerpen.
threw the bodies in,
Ze gooiden gewoon die lichamen
De Duitse.
op de vrachtwagen. De Duitse deden dat, ja.
and they found thousands and thousands of bodies there.
En er lagen dan duizenden lijken.
Yeah.
Ja, maar je moet ook rekening houden. Kijk, er was zo ook sommige mensen, de propaganda, die zeiden genoeg dat de Amerikanen moordenaars waren. Begrijpt u dat?
In the propaganda of the Germans
dat
said
die
that the Americans were the enemies and that they were the killers.
De mensen bombarderen.
Yeah. He could not see those things because he was on the other bank.
I
This
understand.
is the left bank.
Yes.
And Hurwitz was shot on the right bank.
Right bank.
En de Duitse propaganda die zeiden genoeg uiteindelijk dat de Amerikanen bomtapijten wierpen, hè, dat ze niet keken naar militaire
Because
doelen.
the propaganda of the Germans said that the Americans threw bombs everywhere, not only at military goals,
Of
but
course.
that was Goebbels and his.
Of course. Explain to him, I went to the cemetery
Zij ging gisteren naar de begraafplaats
and I met either he was a former Air Force or Army man.
en er lagen allemaal mannen van de luchtmacht en van de zeemacht.
Yeah, and he is at the cemetery. He runs the cemetery,
En ze heeft gesproken met de directeur van die begraafplaats in Wallonië.
Veteran Cemetery.
In Wallonië hebben
Ja,
we
maar he is not buried there. Hè?
No,
Nou,
2 other men are buried there.
er liggen 2 andere van de 5 gesneuvelden en zij heeft kunnen spreken met de directeur. You have spoken to the director there.
The director. And he told me
En hij zei me,
that when they took all the thousands of bodies to the cemetery,
als we al die duizenden lijken overbrachten naar de begraafplaats.
and the morgue people were there,
En de mensen van het dodenhuisje waren daar.
they took one body at a time.
Dan namen ze 1 lijk per lijk, 1 voor 1.
They had to take the uniforms off and burn them.
Ze moesten de uniformen afnemen en die verbranden.
And then they had to examine each body twice,
En dan onderzochten ze elk lijk 2 keer,
sometimes 3
soms
times,
3 keer.
to try to match the bones with the right person.
Om te trachten de beenderen en de lichaamsdelen die niet meer aan hetzelfde lichaam hingen, om te trachten van die bijeen te brengen. Zodanig dat de lichamen, de benen en de armen hadden die er eigenlijk echt bij hoorden.
And this was after the war.
Dat was na de oorlog natuurlijk.
They were killed in 1943,
Zij waren gesneuveld in 1943,
July 30th.
op de 30 juli 1943.
The war was over in 1945.
De oorlog eindigde in 1945.
Information did not start till about 46, 47.
Het was pas vanaf 46, 47 dat de nabestaanden informatie kregen.
And my family and I,
Dan is de Belgische stad ook in gebreken gebleven.
Ja, maar dat was natuurlijk een chaos op die. Hè. Dat was een chaos op die. It was chaos and that's why it took a few years before
Right.
information. Ja.
and my family and I
Mijn familie en ik.
never believed that the bones came to America.
Wij namen eigenlijk niet aan dat de stoffelijke overschotten naar Amerika kwamen.
But the administrator, you said,
Maar de directeur waarmee
The
ze
director?
gisteren gesproken heeft,
told me that definitely the bones were brought to America.
heeft gezegd dat ze dus werkelijk er werk van gemaakt hebben om de juiste lichamen op de juiste naam naar de juiste plaats over te brengen.
And now I can share this with my family.
En nu kan ik deze wetenschap, het feit dat zo is, delen met mijn familie.
And the director is making a CD
En de directeur van gisteren van die begraafplaats,
For the
die
whole
maakt nu
story?
een CD voor haar, met heel het verhaal erop dat ze nu vertelt.
and going to mail it to me.
Hij gaat het naar haar mailen, doorzenden.
He's going to mail the military flag.
Hij gaat de
To me?
militaire vlag naar haar doormailen.
And he will get the president's signature certificate for me.
En hij zal een bewijs laten opmaken voor haar.
Yes. And so my family and I can be at peace.
Zodanig dat mijn familie en ik vredesrust hebben, geestrust hebben, dat we gerust zijn dat het inderdaad uiteindelijk de juiste man, de juiste naam in de juiste kist begraven is.
I'm making a film,
Ik maak een film,
writing a book,
schrijf een boek
and everybody will see the film here
en iedereen zal de film te zien
and
krijgen
the
hier
book.
en het boek te lezen krijgen.
Wat ik in u bewonder nu, hè,
What I admire in you,
dat je zo'n familiegeest hebt.
that you have such a family spirit.
Dat is eigenlijk uniek.
That's unique.
Thank you. Very hard to find a loved one that died in World War II.
Het is zeer moeilijk van een geliefde te vinden die stierf in de Tweede Wereldoorlog.
I was very lucky.
Ik had het geluk.
I did a lot of research,
Ik heb heel wat opzoekingswerk gedaan.
and because of my research,
En dankzij mijn opzoekingswerk
I was connected to Laurent Sagamon
ben ik in contact gekomen met Laurent Sageman. Dat is de schrijver van dat boek.
and Lou Camillard.
En Luc Hemelaar, dat is de co-auteur van dat boek.
Lou Camillard, United States, call me.
Luc Hemelaar was een computerfreak die heel Amerika afgeschuimd heeft naar contacten om meer te vinden over de gesneuvelden. En hij heeft Louisa gecontacteerd telefonisch.
And the story began.
En zo is eigenlijk mijn hele verhaal begonnen.
I want to thank you so much for coming here.
Ik dank u zozeer om naar hier te
Zonder
komen.
dank, zonder dank.
Yes,
Als ik u kan...
you will be in my film and my book.
Je komt in de film en in het boek.
Dank u wel, dank u wel.
And could you give me Joseph's full name? There we go. Beautiful. Oh, okay. Beautiful.
Het zijn twee, there are two different pictures.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Joseph, right?
Jozef,
Luc Hemelaar is going to call you.
Luc Hemelaar zal u opbellen.
He wants to speak with you.
Hij wil met u spreken.
And camera too.
Ja, ja.
Is that okay?
Oké.
And he will call you soon.
Hij zal u spoedig opbellen.
Ja.
En een foto pakken.
I want to wish you a very happy anniversary.
Ik feliciteer u met uw diamanten huwelijksjubileum.
Dank u wel.
Many years
Vele jaren.
and many more years.
En ik wens u nog vele gelukkige jaren.
Health and happiness.
Gezondheid en geluk.
Bedankt.
Yes.
Hartelijk bedankt. Maar het is spijtig dat op zo'n tragische wijze moet gebeuren natuurlijk.
It's a pity that we meet in such tragical circumstances.
It is tragic, but it's happy.
Het is tragisch, maar het geeft een goed gevoel van mensen te kunnen vinden die over die story kunnen vertellen. Dat lucht op.
I will tell you a story.
Ik ga u een verhaal vertellen
The director of the
die
cemetery
de directeur van de begraafplaats mij heeft verteld.
told me
Hij zei,
I was crying
op het ogenblik dat ik weende,
and he said to me,
hij zei tegen mij,
your uncle was better off shot
uw oom was gelukkig dat hij neergeschoten werd,
because
want
he would have been brought to a concentration camp
anders was hij naar een concentratiekamp gebracht.
and his life would have been horrible
En hij zou een afschuwelijk leven hebben gekend.
and he would have died
En
anyway.
hij zou toch gestorven zijn.
So it's better he died there
Het is beter dat hij daar stierf,
fast
onmiddellijk, snel,
than suffer and suffer
dan af te zien.
and suffer. Yeah.
En was hij, wat er, wa- hoe moet ik het nou zeggen? Was hij door meer dan 6 schot geraakt? Volgens mij worden die doorziet.
Ja, according to Joseph, the bodies were, there was not one shot, but there was an enormous number of shots that had gone through the body.
Oh my God.
Maar het was terug, tik, 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 tik. En dan draaide hij rond en dan kwam hij terug. Tik, tik, tik.
There were series of shots, and always coming back.
En er was een, dat kan misschien een ongeluk geweest hebben, die was misschien nog maar 100 meter van de zogenaamde kerktoren, van de grond. Hè.
I don't
En
know
dan,
what
weer,
it,
dan kwam de jager zo, dat was misschien maar 50 meter boven de jager gedraaid hè, en weer nog te schieten.
when he was landing and he was at about 100 meters from the ground, then the hunter, the Germans, kept returning and kept on shooting.
Nog schieten.
There were two people, Americans, who jumped out of the plane on the right bank. The second one survived, so it must have been the first one
Yeah.
who died.
Ja, Je kunt dat ook begrijpen. Die parachutisten die gaan op verschillende hoogten. Hè.
The parachutes
Dus-
were on different heights.
En
Right.
de jager die moest dan schoten op die ene en dan kwam hij weer lager en dan schoten op die andere.
Yes, and while they were going down, the plane returned.
Maybe one day
Misschien dat er ooit
you can go visit my uncle's memorial.
dat je eens een bezoek kunt brengen aan dat kruis
In
in
Weert?
Weert.
Yeah.
Ik kon er een bezoek bij
The
brengen,
cross.
want ik woon in Weert tussen.
I think he will do that tomorrow because he lives in Thames, but he stays in Weert. He is a
Okay.
fisherman, and in summertime he has got a house there.
Oh.
He always stays there, so
Okay.
it's not far away from the place he lives. That the
Right.
crucifix is.
When you drive up the road,
Als je de weg oprijdt,
it's to your right.
het is aan de
Dat
rechterkant.
is niet ver van de regel
Ja.
dan.
Het is niet ver van de Narren,
Nou ja,
dus dat is heel dichtbij, hoor.
dat is niet ver van de regel. Ook de narren en dan nog een weer van de vet is de regel.
Ah,
Ver van de regel.
Dat ken ik niet regel. Ah, dat is het ver van de regel. Ja. Ah ja, 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 dat is zo dichtbij.
Daar komen de dingen uit te wijnen en onder die restaurants er waren allemaal in de bunker.
Wow, it's a lot. And I want to thank you again.
Maar sommige-
You made me feel wonderful.
Ik dank u nogmaals, want het is een opluchting voor mij.
Yes. And would you like to say anything more, Mayor Luke?
He wants to
Maar
add something.
Die andere mensen, die andere piloten, heb je daar ook contact nog mee gehad?
Have you
Die
got-
nog overlevenden.
Have you got contact with the other survivors?
One survivor,
Met één van hen,
Don Falk,
John Falk, die nog naar Iglode geweest is.
they put him in a hospital,
Die is in een hospitaal geweest na de oorlog.
and they were going to cut his legs off,
En ze zouden zijn benen moeten afzetten hebben.
and one of the German doctors there
En een van de Duitse dokters
had education in America,
had gestudeerd in Amerika.
and he told Don
En hij zei aan Don Falk
that he will not let them do that.
dat hij niet wilde dat ze zijn benen zouden afzetten.
And he, the German doctor, put his life on the line.
En de Duitse dokter heeft zijn eigen leven op het spel gezet.
And he made sure that that did not happen.
En hij zorgde ervoor dat de benen niet werden afgezet.
And eventually Don went home, but it was later. He still was tortured because they did other surgery without any kind of numbing, anesthetic.
En het heeft Don Falk altijd achtervolgd dat ze heel wat mensen geopereerd hadden zonder die te verdoven.
So he suffered a lot.
Dus hij zelf ook.
A
Hij
lot.
heeft zelf zeer veel afgezien zijn hele leven en hij is vorig jaar gestorven.
So then eventually he went home.
Als hij uiteindelijk
He-
naar huis ging,
He passed away within the last year.
de laatste jaren ging hij achteruit.
And Luke Hemmeler gave me his number, but I wrote him a
En
special
Luc
letter.
gaf mij zijn adres en ik heb met hem contact gehad schriftelijk.
And Don cried when he got the letter.
En Don weende toen hij de brief kreeg. Want Don Falk was een intieme vriend van Mayor Hurwitz. Dus dat worden zeer goede vrienden.
They were best friends.
Zij waren boezemvrienden.
And he was very excited,
He was very...
excited,
Hij
happy.
was erg opgewonden, aangeslagen. Don Falk was erg aangeslagen toen hij de brief las van Louise.
He helped me get the medals for my uncle.
Hij bezorgde mij de medailles van mijn oom.
7 medals.
7 medailles.
I have 2 sets,
Ik heb 2 sets.
one for me and one for my mother and my sister. My father died
Eén
3
voor
years
mezelf
ago.
en één voor mijn moeder en mijn zuster, want mijn vader is overleden.
That was my father's brother.
Dus het gaat hier over Mayor Hurwitz, de broer van mijn vader.
Ja.
Mijn vader was een oudere broer.
So Don and I spoke a lot.
Dus Don Falk en ik hebben dan vaak gesproken met elkaar.
We shared a lot,
We deelden heel wat herinneringen.
and unfortunately he died before I could go visit him.
En spijtig genoeg overleed hij voordat ik hem kon bezoeken. Ik heb dus altijd... You had contact on the telephone? Or by writing?
First writing,
Eerst in het begin schreven wij
then phone.
en nadien aan de telefoon.
And I wanted to go there,
Ik wilde hem eigenlijk opzoeken.
and things in my life stopped me from going when I wanted to.
Maar ik had zelf nogal veel om het lijf en het kwam er niet van.
So when I did want to go,
Toen ik uiteindelijk wilde
he
gaan,
was very ill,
was hij erg ziek.
and then eventually he passed away.
En uiteindelijk overleed hij.
But I'm happy that I talked to him so much.
Maar ik ben blij dat ik zoveel met hem kunnen spreken.
I also have a special book
Ik heb ook een speciaal boek.
that was written, he was in the book from a friend of his. The man is a writer, an author and publisher.
Hoe is in de boek? Don Falk?
Don Falk,
Ja.
Writing the Bomb,
Ja.
you know?
Ja, zij heeft ook een boek waarin Don Falk
Ja.
voorkomt.
And Delbert Williams,
En Delbert Williams, de
Who
radio
survived.
operator, die ook overleed en die ook nog eens naar Tirol gekomen is.
I never met him. I talked to his wife.
Die heb ik nooit gesproken, wel zijn vrouw.
When I called his wife,
Toen ik met haar telefonisch contact opnam,
Delbert, mind no good.
was Delbert geestelijk niet gezond meer.
But
Maar
I have
ik heb
1989 celebration,
in 1989, als Don Falk en Delbert Williams naar Tirol gekomen zijn en wij een herdenking hebben georganiseerd,
1993 60th,
hetzelfde in 1993.
no, 50th, 1993, 50th.
1993, de gelegenheid van de 50ste verjaardag van het drama.
So I have all
Er
the
zijn films van
film.
genomen en die heeft zij volledig.
I do not have 2003.
In 2003 is dit boek verschenen, maar dan zijn er geen filmopnamen genomen. So when the book was presented, we haven't filmed it.
But Laurent wrote to me much about it, and Luke told me much about it. And I hope if there's a celebration in 2013
That you will come.
that I can come.
En ze hoopt als de 60ste verjaardag in 2013 hier wordt herdacht, dat ze dan naar Temse kan komen om dat bij te wonen.
Yeah. So this is the story. It's like a dream,
Het is een verhaal zoals een droom.
a bad dream and a good dream.
Slechte droom, maar uiteindelijk ook een goede droom. Na al wat ze nu verneemt en de mensen ziet, dat dat een opluchting is voor haar.
And the director at the cemetery told me, he asked me,
En de directeur op de begraafplaats gisteren,
what will you do with all of your items
wat ga je doen met al het verzamelde materiaal
when I die?
als je sterft?
And I will give them to the museum.
Ik zal het aan het museum geven. Wat museum?
Oh, well, we have museums in Los Angeles.
Dus museums in Los Angeles,
Oh,
in
yeah,
Amerika.
yeah, easier. And so they will have them.
En die mogen het dan hebben.
Yeah, yeah, because my father is not alive.
Want mijn vader leeft niet meer.
And my grandparents are dead.
Ja, mijn grootouders zijn natuurlijk ook
Ja.
dood.
So, as I say, you know, I've come to the end with all my answers. And I'm
Ik heb
happy.
uiteindelijk alle vragen die ik moest beantwoord krijgen, daar heb ik een antwoord op gekregen.
And would you like to say anything else?
I have experienced this drum from 1989 on, when Laurent Sageman actually was the man who took the initiative to organize a celebration. And from the very beginning, it has struck me a lot, and I am glad that I have had the opportunity of sharing it all since 1989. 1989, we had Don Falk, we had Delbert Williams in Temse, and I remember my speech very well. It's in the book.
I saw it.
And we are very grateful for what the American people have done. And there is one sentence which is very important. We will never forget that we live thanks to so many people who have died. And we were very grateful to be able to say that to Don Falk and Delbert Williams, the men who survived themselves. I have had the opportunity of talking to them and of becoming pretty close, and the drama has always haunted me, and I have always felt a very deep kinship and sympathy for those who were hit by it. And so when you contacted us, we were immediately willing to give a helping hand. And I think what you do is an enormous effort, and it must be hard for you to go through it all again. But on the other hand, it must be a relief, and it must be also give you a special feeling to see that so many people are involved and still remember what has happened and feel with you, have sympathy with you, and that they actually all want to help you. I congratulate you for the effort. I look forward to the result, and I'm sure it's going to be a wonderful book. It's going to be a wonderful film, not only reflecting the truth and reality, but mixed up with great feelings of devotion, emotion, dedication, and sympathy. I congratulate you.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. And as I told you before, the world's going to know this story if I have anything to say about it. So you'll be very well known. And so, Joseph?
Jeff, jij en ik komen in die film. Wij werden wereldberoemd.
Laurent.
Laurent zal er
Luc.
natuurlijk ook komen. Luc Imela zal er natuurlijk ook.
And I will also share with you that
Ik bezorg aan die hoeks in de Jeff.
I'm so excited to have met everybody here.
Ik ben zo aangenaam verrast van met iedereen contact hebben te kunnen nemen.
Belgium is just beautiful.
Belgium is geweldig.
And I didn't know what to expect.
Ik wist niet wat ik moest verwachten.
And I've gotten very warm, wonderful greetings and welcomes from everybody.
Ik ben door iedereen op een zeer hartelijke manier verwelkomd.
And people who really care and want to help.
De mensen zitten er echt mee in en willen mij helpen.
And again, I thank you so much for coming.
En ik dank u zozeer voor naar hier te komen.
And of course, Mayor Luke, the same.
En natuurlijk
You've been wonderful.
de burgemeester.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm taking you around, and I'm trying to get as much in as possible. This still is in Antwerp, where, like I say, the bodies were dumped of the resistance. Our officers, whether they were in the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, or people who perhaps resisted the Nazis, were killed, and they were dumped. And all of this was actually a cemetery. And it's no longer a cemetery. But their spirits of all, including my uncle Mayer, who was the bombardier, who was killed by the Nazis parachuting down and given some shots in his stomach and fatally passed away.
I guess sit down. Yep, good girl. Stay there. Stay.
This is absolutely the most beautiful, well taken care of cemetery. Luke and Karen and baby Anya we're all at the gravesite at Earl McCloy. This is Esther's brother-in-law. And this is, if my uncle were buried here, he would be probably, in one of these rows in this beautiful cemetery. And we're going to continue to walk down to another. Earl was one of my Uncle Mayer's mates in the Air Force plane that was shot down. This is another honor for Walter A. Koch, who was with my uncle in the same plane, July 30th, 1943. This is a monument representing all the different squadron that didn't make it through World War II from our air forces in the States. And the squadron on the left-hand side, right above the lowest, is the one that my uncle was involved with from the United States Army. Take a closer look in there. There you go. This is Luke Hemler, and I'm going to be interviewing him. Luke, what I'd like for you to do is to start from the very beginning and tell me how you came about getting involved with the story of my uncle's downfall of his bomber plane over Brussels. Over Belgium. Go very slow.
The first thing I read was the first issue of the book that Laurent wrote. I got it at the library, and I thought it would be possible to find out more information than that was mentioned in there. So that's when I started reading the book. I contacted Laurent and started looking for information on the internet. First thing I did was find pictures of the graves of the crew members that were not buried in Belgium. So that way I got in touch with Mr. Schwartz, who got me in contact with you, Louisa.
But you weren't in Belgium at that time, right? You were in the States?
I was visiting my mother-in-law in Philadelphia, and I did some phone calls from there, trying to locate people, relatives of.
Didn't you also send a message through the computers to have somebody contact you if they knew any information?
Yeah, there's like different forums on the internet from the 8th Air Force for people doing the same thing as I did, is trying to find relatives of crew members of the people who died in Belgium.
The reason I ask you is because Mr. Schwartz told me that they had received a letter from me that they were holding, one of the many on my search, and that one of the women in the Veterans Association in Chicago found your request and brought both my letter and your request to Mr. Schwartz. Now, he called you then, right?
He sent me a letter.
Oh, he sent you a letter. Okay, and then what happened?
The letter came with pictures of the grave of Mayer, which we were going to use in the book. And he also gave me your phone number and your address.
Yes.
And that's when I called you on the phone, and
Right.
we talked for hours and hours.
And actually, Mr. Schwartz called me first, and he asked permission if I could give you my number or whatever. And of course,
Yeah.
I was so excited, I gave him everything I could so I can get this connection with you.
Okay.
And so then you did call that night, I believe,
Yeah.
and we spoke forever. And my hairs were standing up on edge because of this. My long search was starting, unusually so, because it's so hard to find anybody who could ever be connected to someone's, who's searching for someone who died in the armed forces, especially during World War II.
Yeah, that's right.
So my little angels were with me, and you were one of them, definitely. Then what happened?
And then I translated some of the story of Mayer, the way he died, what happened with him after he died, the way he was treated.
And this was in Philadelphia, right, to me?
That was in Belgium.
In Belgium?
Yeah.
Okay, because I know you called me, and we emailed a lot, so
Yeah, we
go
did,
ahead, go
yeah.
ahead.
Since the story was in Dutch, it had to be translated. But I didn't translate the whole book, of course, which is several pages, and it would take a long time to translate.
How did you feel when you were initially doing your search, when you went to the library and then kept getting more information? What were your feelings going through this process? Because you're basically, what I could say, a stranger getting very involved with a crew of men
Yeah.
that had no relationship to you, basically. What gave you this feeling to want to continue to so passionately, which you have throughout these years?
Well, the first thing is that the bomber crashed about 3 minutes from where I live, which is very close, of course. Another thing is that I always appreciated what the American people did for us, for my ancestors, of course, because I wasn't born then.
Thank God.
But just the idea, knowing that people fight the battle in a strange country they've never been in before, very far away from their homes, and dying there. I also married an American woman, which has nothing to do with the story, of course, but
Well, it does in a way.
there's always been a respect from me for American people because of what they did during the war.
So you really put all your passion into this
Yes, I did,
and spent many hours and are continuing
and still do.
and continue. And of course, I will help you out in every way I can to continue to help you. Would you like to add more in any way to, it's very important to me. You're a very important person to me in every way. Very kind soul, very dear, and it's very important to me for you to tell me anything you can, because from my perspective and what I'm going to do, the world is going to know about everything that you've done. So please tell me anything you want to on this interview.
Well, right now there's still a few missing links of crew members we haven't found anything of. We don't know if they're still alive. So I'm still digging and trying to find relatives of the people we haven't found any information on. What happened recently is, like last week, I found a relative of Walter Koch, who was on the plane also, and they're looking into the paperwork right now to find out if it's 100% sure we're talking about the same person, because there seem to have been more people by this name in the war, but it's like 97% sure right now it's the right relatives we found. So in the future we're going to find out more, I'm sure.
And between the two of us, we'll search for that picture of the plane.
We will.
And I know that one of us is going to come up with it. I just know it.
The thing is that this Lucky Lady 2 was only used for the first time by this crew who crashed with it, because their plane had been damaged the day before.
But I'm sure they took a picture of it anyway. They have film and pictures of everything they owned in our Air Force and Army.
But mostly with crews in it, and the Lucky Lady 2 was like a reserve plane. It was never issued to a steady crew that always flew with it.
Well, I am going to do my damnedest to try to find out.
But we don't give up.
No, I'll never give up.
No.
And I know you and Laurent became very good friends,
Yes, we did.
all families, with a lot of respect and care. And I'm sorry you can't meet what is in my family at this point. Who knows, maybe one day you will. I just can't thank you enough for giving me your time, your energy. I saved all your emails. They're just from the beginning all the way stacked up. And being here in Belgium, I know that and realized how so many people are so grateful that our American men flew here to save their country.
That's right.
And that makes my journey and my soul more rested. And I want to thank you again. You're dear.
You're very welcome.
Love you dearly. And Karen and Anya. And would you like to end this with anything?
Well, the story keeps growing, and I hope to be able to ever finish the story. Like, if there's an end to it, I don't know. But I hope to find out the last bits of information.
Yes. And we will. Definitely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is the cross
That's the cross.
that Laurent had set for Mayor Hurwitz. As you can see, it says First Lieutenant Mayor Isaiah Hurwitz. .338 Squadron, 96 East Bomb, GRH, U.S. Army Air Force. And as we go down, we'll see his picture. And we'll zoom into that. and we go down and we see the beautiful Jewish star. And then here, as we continue to go down, we'll see the beautiful flowers that Laurent brought for me and for Uncle Mayer for today. Laurent is walking up near to where he gave the memorial for my uncle. This handsome, wonderful man that put together this wonderful memorial for my uncle.
That's better.
Is it better?
Yeah, that's better.
Oh, good.
Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Laurent and I are what you call walking through the alley in Wirt, and we're going to go to the area where Meyer's plane was shot down and where he landed. We have to pass a gate. We're really not supposed to be here, but hopefully we'll be able to come through. Okay, right now we've got to go under this railing. Oh, wow.
It's okay.
As we try to make our way and roll under.
Yeah.
Okay. This is this is actually private, but we're going to try anyway to come in here. We're not supposed to be here. And as you see, Laurent is walking in front of me, leading the way. As you see, everything is so green and peaceful. Which was very unlike the year of 1943, when the Nazis controlled this whole area. One can almost feel that they're in the same year in the time of the persecution of my uncle's plane and the men that were inside, where 5 had passed away. Little did I know that I would be here today, the year of 2007, and this is April 27th in Belgium, Weert, Belgium. In such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful park. That there was such horror going on between 1939 and 1945. Laurent explained to me that the plane went down in Tillerode, which is facing where I'm showing the camera, which is a little town across the water, which we will eventually see. And Uncle Mayer, when he was parachuting, came all the way across the river, all the way up into the air, into Weert, where we are now, and his body landed right in this area. right around here, where Laurent had seen this, I believe. Laurent, you saw the body.
No,
No, you did not.
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
But you saw him shot.
I saw
You saw him shot. Okay. This is the exact area where Uncle Mayer was shot down, and his parachute brought him here across the river. And what was the man's name when he was
I don't remember. It was
Bernard is the young man. He was about 8 years old.
about 11.
Oh, 11 years old. And he saw my uncle fall, and he came to him to try to save his life.
Yeah.
And he ran to get holy water.
Yeah.
Do you remember where the holy water may be, or?
It was not holy water. It was water from the ditch.
Oh, I see. It was water from the ditch,
Yeah.
and it was somewhere around here,
Somewhere around.
somewhere in this area.
Yeah.
And he came back to where my uncle was laying, and he wiped his brow.
Yeah.
Hoping to keep him alive. And he said a prayer, and he was the only young man that witnessed my uncle's death. The Nazis shot my uncle when he parachuted out of the plane in his stomach. As a matter of fact, if you have any imagination, in and around the grass here, you might just picture a beautiful U.S. soldier killed and his body laying right here. And I remember from Laurent, Bernard said he never saw such a beautiful, beautiful man. Very handsome man. And we will continue our journey as I film all areas here. This is where my uncle has passed. Laurent has given me some of the soil in a little holder with a flower from this area to take home. Thank you. Laurent thinks that the water came right in this area from where Bernard got it and brought it to my uncle's brow, hoping he would save his life. Right in this area, a few feet away from where his body fell. Right about here. It's amazing, one would never know that we had such disaster in our world. And here we're back from the long journey that I would have never wanted to witness in my lifetime. Again. And back to the memorial, that beautiful memorial that Laurent left and built and kept up and brought flowers for me to lay today in honor of my uncle. We are in Tilly-Rode. We started just a few feet back, and as Laurent said, we have a little bit of a journey. Tilly-Rode is the area where the plane had gone down. Oops. And it's kind of wild, a wild park, right? It's a little wild park. Wild flowers and all. And so we've got a little journey to take our walk. And this is the river, right?
No.
Oh,
This is a quarry of the brickyard.
oh, it's a quarry of the
But at the
brickyard.
time of the crash, this was a potato field.
Oh, it was a potato
Yes,
field.
the plane came down just on the other side of the hole.
Of the hole.
Of the hole, yeah.
So about up there it came down?
Yeah, there, up there, yeah.
Okay. So from the water area, I'm going to go up a little further. So this is really just, like Laurent said, it's just a hole. And there's water there now, but the plane landed right above
Yeah.
where you see kind of like a sand ridge. A sand
right.
ridge. And Laurent, you saw the plane come down.
I saw it.
Where were you standing?
I was standing after that building.
Oh, all the way down there.
Yeah,
There's a building far off to the left,
yeah,
above where the plane to the right, where I
Yeah.
just showed you. And so you were standing where that building was,
yes.
and your father was with you.
My father
Was your mother with
My
you?
mother was inside the house.
Okay. What did your father tell you? You told me you wanted to run to.
Well, he said, go not to the crash site.
Yes.
We had to be very quiet, and because the Germans were there, already there.
Right. And they would kill you if you did.
Of course.
Yes. And so here we are in Tillerode, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right,
Yeah, Tilrode. Yeah.
which is part of Temsa.
Yeah.
And once again, the plane fell about right here,
Yeah.
and Laurent, my dear friend, was right where this house is.
Yeah.
And he wanted to run and see everything, and his father would not let him go because he would not be here today if
No.
he did.
But at the time,
Uh-huh.
this was a potato field.
Right,
It was
it
not
was
a hole.
all a potato field. Uh-huh. So now it's just a hole with water.
So,
Yeah. Right. Well, it is beautiful nature,
yeah.
and again, I think the spirits of all our men are still around,
He's still around. Yeah. And all the victims are spread over the
all
fields.
over the fields.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is wonderful, and I thank you so much for bringing me here. And
With pleasure.
we're on recording mode, and we're in Laurent and Paula's home, and I'm going to be interviewing Laurent. And Laurent, please speak very slow and just take your time and relax.
I will.
Okay, we got a good deal, didn't we? What I wanted to ask you first is, tell me how old you were when you first saw what happened here in Belgium.
You mean the crash of the Lucky Lady too?
Yeah.
At that time, I was 17 years old, and I lived in Tilrode. And I saw the plane coming down. It was on the 30th of July, 1943. The plane came from the direction of Temse. And I saw the plane blowing apart. And after that, I saw the parachutes with the crew members of the Lucky Lady. And the German fighters were fighting on the unconscious crew members. It was horrible to see that. I can never forget that.
Okay, so you were, you saw the plane go down,
Yes, I saw it.
and what did you want to do?
Yeah, I couldn't do nothing because the Germans were very quickly there. And there was one of the crew members that came back near to us. It was Donald Ross. And we went to him and we saw him with many people. I think more than 50 people were there.
From the village?
From the village. And so we were standing around when the Germans came in. And they said to us, go away. So we could see that they put him upstairs, up on a car, and they took him away.
And what was his name?
Donald Ross.
Oh, Donald Ross, okay.
Donald Ross.
And then what happened?
Then it was a day like another day for us, because the plane was not in our neighborhood. The plane was further to the village of Tilrode.
Mm-hmm.
And father said, don't go to there. It's too dangerous. Because the Germans are there, stay here. But we went to the fields looking for pieces of the plane. So we took them home and we cherished them all the time.
And what, did you see my uncle fall out of the plane?
No, he jumped out
Yeah.
before the plane blew apart. He jumped out over Temse.
Right.
And at that time, the plane was still high enough to open his parachute, and with the wind, the wind blew him at the other side of the river to where he fell down after he was shot by the Germans. And he died there on the ground.
And what did they do with his body after, do you remember?
And I didn't know what they did with his body, but I think they put him on a truck and they left with him to Antwerp, where he was buried.
And what happened to the other men?
The other men,
10 men, there were 10 men altogether.
there were 5 were dead and 5 were alive. Donald Falk and Delbert Williams were brought in a farm near our home.
Uh-huh.
It was, the owner was Anne, and there Donald Falk was laid on the pavement outside because he was near dying. He was very badly wounded, and Williams, Delbert Williams was taken inside the home with a broken ankle. And there he was interrogated by the German MP.
He was brought to a hospital eventually, right?
Later he was brought to a hospital, first in Antwerp, and the day after they were brought to the prison, the hospital of the prison in Brussels.
Okay.
And Don Falk stayed there for more than 3 months, but Williams only for a few days.
I'm going to shut this off for 1 minute.
Yeah.
Laurent, what happened after that time? Well, first, the Germans took all of Belgium over. Is that right?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
and they stayed in the homes of very wealthy people that had spare rooms.
Yeah,
And they were watching over everybody.
of course.
And there were a lot of other people killed, like the resistance.
Yeah, of course.
And were there other people that were killed as
Yeah.
well?
Sometimes. Yeah.
For what reason?
Most of all for being upset to them,
Okay. They weren't obeying their laws.
of course.
Okay. Were you afraid as a young little boy?
I was too young to be afraid.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't know quite what was going on.
No,
It was hard to understand.
it was hard to understand. But my elder brother, Victor,
Yes.
was very afraid of them because he had to go to Germany for work.
Oh
But
my gosh.
he hid it himself and he remained at home.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah.
And when the war was over, was this around the time you wanted to start looking into what happened to everybody on that plane?
I always tried to know what was happened, but I had no time to do it because I was busy,
Right.
and I started only my investigations after I was retired.
I see. And what year was that?
That was in 1986.
Okay. And 1986, you started doing research on your own.
Yeah,
And did you have a computer then?
no,
Okay.
no.
So everything you did was
Just writing.
just writing and
yeah,
trying to find out information
and talking to the people of Tilrode.
and talking to those people too. And did they give you a lot of information?
Yeah, because the one knew this and the other
Knew that.
at what the others. So I could reconstruct just the crash of the lady.
Of the lady.
Yeah,
Okay. And then your book was published, is that right?
it was published in '89, the first book.
Right.
It was only a very small.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's in the library for people to read.
Yeah.
And when did you start trying to put together the second book?
The second book, after the mayor knew that we were looking further and further. And I had a good company of Luc Emelaar. And we both stayed together and we started again our investigations, and Luc could use the email and internet. So he could find more than I could.
And he sure found me,
Yeah, and he found you. And he found also Esther.
Esther.
Yeah.
I was very excited about this.
Mhm.
And I'm going to talk more about this later.
Yeah.
But I thank God that the connection was there,
The connection.
because there are very few people that are able to get this information
Yeah.
from that war. It was almost
Of course,
impossible.
Yeah.
And so tell me what happened after that. You started working with Luke,
Yeah.
and he did a lot of research for you and
Of course.
got a hold of more people like me and Esther, and he got more information about some of the men that had died.
Yeah.
And when you first met Don Falk, how did that happen when you met him? When did you meet Don?
Well, Don was a real fine person, and we met him in '89. The time that the memorial tablet was installed at the wall of the church in Tilrode. And at that time there was a lot of people to be there. I think more than 500 people were there by the inauguration.
And that was 1989.
It was 1989.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the first time you met with him.
That was the first time.
And you never wrote him before?
Before I wrote him.
How long were you writing Don?
I think 2 years.
How lovely.
Yeah.
And then when did you meet with him again?
Then the second time we meet him again in 91?
Ja,
Not 93.
dat was al Linden.
Then
Die kwam 7 op
he
5.
came back alone in 91 for the second time.
Uh-huh.
And the third time he was here, it was 93 for the
50?
anniversary
Ja.
of the 50th day. Yeah,
Yeah.
With Williams
yeah. Together with Williams,
en Virginia.
With Delbert.
with Albert,
Yeah.
and Virginia. Virginia was also here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And tell me about your feelings from the time you saw all this happen throughout your years. Tell me what you were feeling. Why did you want to pursue a book and the knowledge about knowing about all these men?
But I was very touched when I saw the drama, and I want to know what was happened again. Who were these people? Were the American, were the English, or whatever? And what was their goal? What had they to do in Germany? That was, I was really possessed from that.
In a very wonderful way.
Yeah, I had to know that, so I started investigations. I won't know it.
And through your whole life you continued.
Yeah, of course.
And thank God Luke was wanting to help you.
Yeah.
So
I
your
am
search can become more
he was
complete.
very helpful. Yeah.
And tell me what else you would like to tell me. Anything you'd like to tell me, I'd like to know.
I am very glad that you are here.
Thank you. And I am very glad I'm here. You're a blessing.
That you are a blessing too.
And as I said in the car, you have a very special spirit and a beautiful heart.
Thank you.
And I wish and hope that your years are long and God gives you much happiness
Thank
in your
you.
life.
Thank you.
And we will be friends forever and after.
Sure, we will do. It's an
Always.
everlasting friendship.
It's everlasting.
Yeah.
This was used, all the ground that I'm taping right now, where Luke went through, was actually a cemetery where all the Air Force men and resistance men were taken and dumped from the Nazis during the war, and where Mayor Hurwitz, my uncle, his body was dragged from Weert to the dumpster here, or the cemetery. They were all thrown here. And fortunately, Luke, who you see in the picture, has a picture of after the cemetery and the war, where crosses were put up. And behind him are the barracks where the Brussels army used to stay that was taken over by the Nazis. They took all this land over and they stayed here. And this is quite a large piece of land where the hole was, so to speak.
This is taken on top of the fort.
I attempted to follow Luke because we were told that in order to get up to the fort where a lot of the bodies were dumped, we had to climb up over the top of the building, and unfortunately I couldn't get up there like Luke can, so he went up there and got to the top and took the pictures of where bodies were dumped as well.